Good afternoon and welcome to Politics in the Pulpit here on your hometown station, AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita, Pastor Jerry Cook, back for another opportunity to talk about the two things that nobody needs to talk about in public, that is religion and politics. And yes, they indeed do mix. Obviously, the topic that is still on everyone's mind is the fires here in Southern California. They have not abated. In fact, last time I heard the update earlier today, I think the fires in Pacific Palisades was only about 18% containment, which is not very impressive. The winds that they predicted over the last couple of days have not been as bad as they were last week, so we can be thankful for that. And then also, the Eaton fire, I think, is about 25% contained. I've got some friends that were in that area. A pastor friend that pastors in Pasadena proper. He lives in Altadena. Of course, they've been out of their home for the last week or so, and thankfully they had family in San Bernardino that allowed them to live with them for a bit. But then we've got the fire in Sylmar, which I believe is almost contained, and then the little one that was in Acton, where I happen to reside, that was really basically put out the day of, and it just smoldered for a couple days after that. But no big issues there in Acton. So for those that texted and Facebooked and messaged and all that stuff, thank you very much. But we're all good up in Acton. But of course, our prayers are with all those that are still without any kind of dwelling or staying in a hotel. And, basically their lives have been completely upended. Our guest today is no stranger to politics and the pulpit. Jennifer Oliver O'Connell is a contributor to RedState's. She writes for As the Girl Turns as well as 1819 News. Jennifer, let's begin with the news that is dominating California. And the question for you is this. Has it finally gotten bad enough for Deep Blue California to start considering voting red?
I think so, Jerry. I think this was the ultimate breaking point needed for people to recognize that voting blue, no matter who, didn't do them any good in the long run. And even the wealthy donors who, should have been protected in Pacific Palisades and even plenty in Pasadena and in the Eden Canyon fire who have lost their homes. They recognize my money didn't protect me. All of the taxes that I poured in, blah, 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 did not protect me because it was the leadership. So I look forward to seeing whether it's recalls or whether it's voting out something, a change in leadership. And I hope that sound leaders, people who understand and know how to get things done and how to do things for all of their constituents and all of their citizens will arise.
It's funny because a few days ago I just saw a poll that was conducted about whether or not people here in California, specifically in SoCal, thought that the fires were because of climate change. And I thought it was odd that they did this poll because usually you don't poll people about something that is a fact, right? Because obviously the blue Democrats believe that climate change is a fact. So if it's a fact, why are we polling people about whether they think climate change had anything to do with this? And what was interesting about that poll, Jennifer, is that less people now are inclined to think that it's climate change, and actually more are inclined to think that it was just improper mitigation and mismanagement by our politicians.
And the truth is coming out. I mean, they kind of shined Newsom and Bass and whoever else is spouting this ridiculousness that it's climate change. They shined them on. They let them say, okay, well, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. And again, as long as it doesn't bother me and I'm giving you money, everything should be all right. And they realized what happens if it is climate change, how good is these fires and all of this doing to the environment? Not very well, is it? They are seeing the results of poor management, which basically impacts, if climate change does exist, it impacts climate change adversely. So they're waking up. And they're finally recognizing that, you know what, climate change, not climate change.
Exactly.
We need people who actually know how to get things done and lead and make the trains run on time and make the water run when it needs to run.
Absolutely. If you're just joining us today on Politics in the Pulpit, we have Jennifer Oliver O'Connell with us, contributor to Red State and As the Girl Turns, as well as the 1819 News. Now, Jennifer, you lived here in Southern California for a time, so you are well aware and acquainted with the Santa Ana winds. They are a staple here in California, specifically here in Southern California. Now, I've remembered the Santa Ana winds all of my life. I'm 48 years old, and obviously we've had Santa Ana winds for as long as I can remember. However, they've gotten, the winds themselves have not gotten worse, but I think the mitigation with our forestry and as well as the brush within city limits and all of that does not get clear-cut has gotten worse and worse because obviously we've had nothing but Democratic control both locally as well as on a state level for a great many years. And I'm just wondering, as I mentioned to you at the beginning, if some of these high Democratic donors, which of course lost their homes in the Palisades, I'm wondering if they realize now, you know what, maybe we should have supported clear cut. Maybe we should have be concerned more with people as opposed to the smelt in the Delta. What say you, Jennifer?
I wrote an article in Red State about the Getty Center, or the Getty Villa, actually. The CEO, who probably gets paid 6 times more than Karen Bass, and well-deserved, basically came up with a mitigation plan, or she protected Getty Villa and the big one over in Brentwood. She protected both properties because they have a fire mitigation plan. They do clear cut. They actually water. It's like all these drought restrictions, don't water, and it only causes more fire. They designed their facilities for fire breaks. They're doing all of the things that Newsom and Bass could have been doing, but refused to. And because of that, and because she had skilled people doing certain things on the property to protect the properties were saved.
Isn't that weird? You mean proper planning actually made all the difference?
It did indeed, and advanced planning. This sudden, we'll figure out what we need to do. No, you figure out what you need to do ahead of time. That way, even if it is climate change, even if it is Santa Ana winds, you are able to mitigate at least some of the damage that happens or stop it completely.
So I just heard I think it was this morning, there was an article, I think it was either in Drudge Report or somewhere, I forget exactly where it was, and they were talking about how Mayor Karen Bass was living it up there in Ghana. I think they had a picture of her drinking some wine or something like that, and while California was burning. And I'm wondering if that is going to be her French Laundry moment that triggers, if you will, a recall effort on her, because there is talk right now of a recall effort. There's something undergoing at the moment, but I don't think that it's as legitimate as another recall that I'm hearing about that I'm not at liberty to talk about at the moment. But do you think it would be feasible for us to recall Karen Bass, not take too big a bite out of the pie, because obviously Gavin Newsom's only got a year and a half left. He's already a lame duck, and he should just be the face of the failure of California for the next year and a half. I think that'd be great. But do you think there is a legitimate effort that we can actually get Karen Bass out of office and maybe put in Rick Caruso, who ran unsuccessfully against her in 2022?
It's a possibility. It's all up to the citizens and how well the grassroots people who aren't dealing with the trauma of their homes being lost can get organized. That's part of the problem with them injecting chaos and allowing this damage to happen, is that, okay, we're going to destroy any efforts or ability of people to organize and stand up and fight back. So if you can get people able, mentally as well as personally, to fight back, to organize, and get rid of her, or if they put enough pressure on her to resign. Because I'm sorry, I thought her French Laundry moment was when she was trying to get out of the airport, and Sky News, doing the job that California media will not do, confronted her saying, "Why were you away? What do you have to say to your people?" To me, that was her French Laundry moment, and it's been downhill from there.
Is that when she was a mute?
Yeah, when she said absolutely nothing and just was blinking. I've been to Ghana. I think Ghana is close to a 20-hour flight. Frankly, it's a long flight, and she knew about what was going on before she even left Africa.
Yeah,
couldn't she have prepared some remarks? Said no comment. I'm talking to my people right now, and I can't reveal. She could have said something instead of looking mute.
Yeah, there is no doubt that has gone viral and that has been viewed so many times. And yeah, that was the first reaction we got of the mayor when she landed at LAX. However, you wrote an article yesterday that came out on Red State. Its title is "California Wildfires Torch His Political Career. Gavin Newsom Launches a Personal Fact Check Site." Do you find it odd that instead of fighting the fires and addressing all of the very pressing issues of the people who have lost their homes, that Gavin Newsom is actually more concerned with, quote, getting funding for misinformation than he is for those who have been victims of this wildfire?
Finally, that's another reason why people are seeing through this delusion and seeing just how psychopathic this man is. People have lost their entire life, everything that they've worked for, stood for. They are not concerned about wildfire misinformation. They know exactly what happened. The fire took their home, and they lost everything. And yeah, they have rightly have someone to blame. There's a whole series of people. Oh, we can't we can't lay blame. We can't. It's like, yes, you can lay blame. It's just as simple as possible. And we also know that Newsom uses misinformation as an excuse for, I don't like what you are saying. I don't like that you're dragging out my record. Too many people see this, and now they are finally saying, enough.
You put,
you're done, dude.
In your article on Red State, you snapped a picture of of Gavin's X account, and he said this, quote, "A lot of misinformation out there. Just launched a new site to ensure the public has access to fact-based data around the Southern California wildfires." And then he says this, the truth is all in caps. He says, "California did not cut our firefighting budget. We have nearly doubled the size of our firefighting army and built the world's largest," and so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is, California as a state may not have cut it, but LA County did. Is that true?
Yes. LA County cut the budget by $17 million, and there was a memo that was being released the day before the fire started saying, well, we're going to cut another 49 more.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is I think this whole misinformation, disinformation campaign that's been run rather successfully for the last 5 or 6 years, I think is kind of petering out a little bit. I think people are starting to realize, you know what? When you say that, it's because we're getting news that contradicts what you're saying out of your pie hole, and we're starting to get the real stuff. And let me ask you this, Jennifer. Do you think that there's been a bit of a reset in people's minds and thinking when it comes to just the media since Trump got elected on November 5th?
I think it was happening even before Trump got elected, the fact that he did get elected, because if we had had the media that we had in 2016 or even 2020, he would have never gotten re-election.
Yeah.
It is thanks to people like Elon Musk, Rumble, so many other outlets that are giving people alternatives to news, Telegram. There are so many channels out there where people are getting their information and their news and ignoring the legacy media. Because all they do is gaslight.
I haven't spoken to you since November 5th. I was wondering, Jennifer, what were you doing the night of November 5th? Were you watching it at home? Were you watching it at a group party? What were you doing?
Yeah, watching it at home with my husband, and doing my usual coverage, but having a good time. Didn't break out the bubbly, but having a good time.
Were you surprised to get the results as quickly as we did? I was assuming that it would go for a couple of days, if you will, kind of believing the narrative from the media that this was going to be a long, drawn out process. But were you just as surprised as I was that we were able to go to bed going, yeah, he won?
I was, because I wasn't expecting to be dragged out for days, just because I knew all of the legal stuff in the background that they had done to stop that nonsense. But I figured, we'll go to sleep before they bother to announce. It's one thing that he won. It's another thing for them to announce it. And there have been reports that in 2020 they stalled announcing certain things because it made him look good. So the fact that they announced everything that night, yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was very pleased myself. I'd like to switch gears real quick here. Obviously, there's some breaking news today about the Hamas deal. This is from Town Hall. It says, quote, Hamas finally agrees to a hostage deal. Then there was a little bit of back and forth about whether or not the Prime Minister of Israel thought there actually was a hostage deal, so on and so forth. I was just wondering what if you followed up on that. What are your thoughts on that? And I also heard that Biden's State Department actually gave Trump's team credit for some of this.
Wow, that's pretty darn shocking, for one. I pray that there is a deal. I pray it is a deal that is Israelis, these Israeli families can either get their children's bodies back, or that their children will be freed, that they'll be able to come home.
What we're hearing,
I hope that is the case.
Yeah, what we're hearing is this is going to be in 2 phases. Which, by the way, I'm not the biggest fan of this stuff when it comes to, quote, phases. I really think that we have the upper hand. Yeah, I think we have the upper hand. I think we need to tell Hamas, hey, you either give us back those hostages or else. But here's what I'm reading. The details are still coming in, but 33 hostages will be released. 10 of them are deceased, unfortunately. 23 are alive, and we don't have names yet. And then there was a ceasefire that put in place between Israel and Hamas for 6 weeks, which could extend into a, quote, second phase. And so, and again, as I just mentioned, I just found this out right before we went live on the air, is that Biden's State Department, I forget the name of the spokesman, that young man that comes out, he actually gave President Trump and the administration credit, which was completely surprising. But then I went over quickly to KJP, and she was dancing around that and wouldn't necessarily give the administration any kind of credit at all.
Yeah, not surprising. Radcliffe, we've discussed it in our editorial meetings, that Radcliffe seems to still have a tinge of a soul, knows that he's not being an honest broker, and so tries to insert some truth here and there, but he's serving who he's serving. But it's not surprising that KJP, why end on a high note or end any way that you didn't begin?
Yeah,
She's
Jennifer, are you able to hold on for the next? You able to hold on for the next section here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Want to talk to you a little bit about the hearings going on with Trump's cabinet picks. Want to get your thoughts on some of the things that are going on, as well as what Biden is doing to basically rewrite his history of the last 4 years. When we come back here on Politics in the Pulpit, we'll continue talking to Jennifer Oliver O'Connell with Red State. We'll be back in just one moment. All right, we're back here. It's the bottom of the hour on Politics in the Pulpit. This is your holy host, Pastor Jerry Cook, the Bishop of Santa Clarita, back for another opportunity to talk to Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, contributor to Red State. She writes for As the Girl Turns, as well as 1819 News, and has a great article out in Red State from yesterday slamming Governor Gavin Newsom, which is not very hard because there's much to slam there. Been talking to Jennifer about just the state of California. Obviously, Jennifer lived here for many years, and your compatriot, Jennifer Van Laar, lives just over the hill from me over in Simi Valley, and of course got a brunt of all this wind last week. But I wanted to kind of focus now on the federal side of things, and the last couple of days we've seen some of the president's cabinet picks sit before the judiciary and take some questions. Real quick, Do you think that Trump is going to get his cabinet, and are there going to be anybody here that is not going to get voted in? For instance, let's just go through this. What say you, Pete Hegseth? Is he in or out?
In.
And you and I talked off the air, but I believe that Pete did a great service to his cause yesterday, not only in terms of his own character, but I think people like Elizabeth Warren, Mazie Hirono, and I forget the other lady right now, Tammy Duckworth, just made absolute fools of themselves yesterday.
Yeah, and don't forget Kirsten Gillibrand. A friend of mine were commenting back and forth that they are not doing any service to women in combat and affirming that women should be in combat.
Yeah.
They are, basically kind of proving his points that maybe they shouldn't be.
And there was concerns a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, about Joni Ernst, but it looks like she's come around, and it looks like she's going to be a thumbs up for Hegseth.
Yeah, she definitely is. I mean, her stated position is, you answered my concerns and assuaged whatever fears I had. The unstated is that they were mounting a campaign to primary her. So.
No, don't say that, Jennifer.
I think she had a come to Jesus moment.
Well, I think we got plenty more, like maybe Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski as well. But how about Tulsi Gabbard? She in or is she out?
Not sure. I would give that a thumb sideways.
Okay, yeah. And you know what? I'm inclined to believe you on that one, Jennifer, because as much as I like Tulsi, she's new to our movement. She's new to conservatism. And so who knows what's going on there. So today I just heard that the Biden administration has just banned red dye 40 or whatever that stuff's called. I'm just wondering if
number 3.
I'm just wondering if they did that because they kind of anticipate RFK Jr. being confirmed. What say you? Is RFK Jr. in or out?
I think he's in. They'll do battle. They'll have fits. Again, there's certain of the nominees that they want to make theater out of, and RFK will be one of those ones that they are going to have a lot of theater and a lot of MSNBC sound bites. But he's in, and they know it.
And you know what? It's interesting because here we have an administration that has such a diversity when it comes to cabinet picks. I mean, RFK Jr. is a Democrat, independent, but he's a Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard, former congressional Democrat, turned independent, turned Republican. And how about Kash Patel? Is he in or is he out? And let me just say, as an affirmative, I believe this is a necessary in. What say you, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell?
I agree. It's not only a necessary in, it's essential to getting rid of all the corruption. And I think President Trump will insist that, this is my hill to die on. Kind of like he did with Kavanaugh. I'm backing you all the way, and no matter what they throw at you, he's going to have a stand. And Kash knows what's up. He's been in intelligence. He's been on the, prosecution side, the defense side, and the law enforcement side. So he knows it from every which way to Sunday.
Yeah. As much as I would have liked to have seen Matt Gaetz up there today, Pam Bondi, as far as I'm concerned, did an absolutely outstanding job, especially when questioned by Adam Shifty Schiff here in California and a few others. But Pam Bondi for Attorney General, is she in or is she out?
I think she is in, yeah.
And in terms of her record, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, are you pleased with Pam Bondi in place of Matt Gaetz?
I'm more of a thumb sideways with Bondi as well. She's had some questionable 2A decisions that she made in Florida, red flag laws, some of the decisions she made after the Parkland shooting. So I'm, not sure, but compared to what they could drag through as Attorney General, she suits.
Well, we know that we only have just a few more days left of the Biden administration, and as far as I'm concerned, it can't get here quick enough. However,
Right.
however, Joe Biden is doing his best to kind of rewrite history and try to make us forget the last 4 years. Here's what Joe Biden said just yesterday, or just a few days ago, about his chances of beating Trump and Kamala's chances of beating Trump, even though Kamala did not beat Trump. Here's what Biden said.
Mr. President, do you regret your decision to run for re-election? Do you think that that made it easier for your predecessor to now become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought, even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be President of the United States, but I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election. And that's why I stepped aside, but I was confident she could win.
Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, would you please dissect for us what he's trying to tell us?
What he's trying to tell you is that he needs, to rewrite history and rewrite his legacy, because really he doesn't want to go out as Grandpa Applesauce that was pushed out the door. So he's making himself to be noble, and that, I stepped aside for the sake of my party and the sake of my country. And they tried that at the convention too, but
when he says,
and I'm looking forward to the tell-all books.
Jennifer, when he says, I stepped aside for the sake of my party because they didn't think I could move, I mean, does that mean like move physically or move the polls, or what does that mean? I mean, I don't even know if he knows what that means, And I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to diss him here. Obviously, he's 82 years old, and I think he needs to just kind of, go off into the golden years and enjoy his life. But the fact of the matter is, when he says, the party was concerned that I couldn't move, I mean, maybe he misspoke. I don't know. But the way I read that is move like physically, But I was looking at some polls the other day when I think this is about 3 or 4 days old when he said this, but I was looking at New Jersey, and there were some middle-of-the-road polls that had Trump winning New Jersey by 1 to 2 points just prior to the Biden-Trump debate. And so he is in his own little fictionalized world if he thinks that in his current state and with the record he has incurred the last 4 years that he was going to beat Trump. And then for him to say that Kamala could have beaten Trump, what does that mean? Because Kamala didn't beat Trump, Jennifer. So what is he talking about?
I don't think he even knows what he's talking about. He's just saying either what's rattling around in his brain or what someone told him to say. I think from one day to the next, he probably has no concept of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's, I laugh about it, but it's also tragic that you're going out that way. He could have just gone gently into that good night, left things alone, done a few things here and there, but needing to make a farewell speech, it just, we'll see what happens. But I think everybody's pretty much the way many of us are feeling. Can you just go away?
Yeah, real quick question.
Don't go away mad, just go.
Yeah, real quick question. How come we haven't heard anything about the drones in New Jersey lately?
Because they were governments and now they're gone.
Isn't it interesting? It was on our radar for almost 2 weeks. Everyone was talking about it. It was everywhere. And now all of a sudden it's gone. It's like the shiny object has been taken away and now there's another shiny object to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even find anything about those drones. What were your thoughts? You think they were government drones?
I'm convinced that they were, yeah, some form of, because, the FAA hasn't even done any good rulemaking, having listened to the transportation secretaries or the nominees hearing about how little they have drones regulated or rules about them or things like that. So They had to be government, and first of all, they were huge, too. They had to be government, whether they were foreign government or our government, who knows. But I also think that certain things have been done by the Biden administration to inject chaos. So I think it was a point of injecting chaos, bright, shiny objects, and also, what were they hiding? They were injecting chaos. They were also trying to cover up for something. What was it? So we'll see.
Just before we let you go today, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, I just want you to put your California hat on again, even though you reside in the great state of Alabama. We've got Governor Gavin Newsom that's got another year and a half, year and 3/4 left of his term. And again, I think that the recall should be to Bass, not Gavin. However, there are some pretty decent conservatives that are about to, throw their hat into the governor's race here. Wondering what your thinking is, what you're going to be writing about here soon, and what your thoughts are about who should run this state.
It's a hard call. I like Richard Grinnell. Mm-hmm. He's a Californian. He loves the state. Whether he has any management skills in terms of the California government, not so sure. Steve Hilton also has his mind toward that, or has made noises toward that. I think he could be a possibility. Whoever is chosen or whoever steps up to the plate really got to be someone who has a heart for California and a heart for its people, as well as who has some management skills. Because part of the mismanagement and part of the incompetence is that they don't actually care for the state or care for the people. They care for their power.
Yeah,
and so whoever the right chooses, they need to make sure that it is someone who doesn't care about power or status or, sound bites. They actually care about the people of California and the state of California.
Yeah, I think it's become more and more apparent to just about everybody here in California, including Democrats, that Gavin Newsom is only concerned about one thing, and that is using California as a stepping stone to the White House. And
yes.
As your Red State article points out very clearly, he is destroying that with every second that goes by here. The fact of the matter is, Jennifer, I love California. I don't have any plans to leave California. But, we have an impending crisis that is going to happen with the insurance companies. There's going to be no way for these companies to cover everybody's damages. I just think that California is a tinderbox, not in the sense that it has gone up in fire, but a tinderbox politically, to where we have been so mismanaged for so long that it's going to take a guy or a gal with some real guts and grit to get this state back in order.
Yeah, guts, grit, and really the right team. I think, if we can talk back to nationally, what made the difference really in Trump's win this time was the quality team that he surrounded himself with. I mean, J.D. Vance, hello. all of these things that only enhanced and moved what he was saying and what he wanted to do forward. And so, again, whoever steps into that fray, I hope they are the real deal, but I also hope the people around them are the same.
Real quickly, before we let you leave today, so a week ago, Jimmy Carter had his memorial, and the big talk on that day was the conversation and the yawking up between Trump and Obama. What were they talking about, Jennifer?
Probably golf and how, Barry can insert himself into the new administration. He's Barry likes the attention and likes the power. He's not someone who just wants to sit back and lay around on a beach.
I just find it I find it very odd that these guys that all said that Trump is Hitler and Trump is the worst thing since Satan just can't help themselves, to just yak it up with the guy. Just like, we had Mika Brzezinski and her red-nosed reindeer husband traveling down to Mar-a-Lago a few weeks ago to kiss the ring. And so,
Yeah.
but even the left has kind of semi-turned on them for doing that. But it's like I said, I think there's a bit of a sea change, and you're right. I think it occurred before the election, and that is why Trump won so resoundingly. Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, I want to thank you so much for being a voice for sanity, for all of your contributions to Red State, to As the Girl Turns, to 1819 News, and everywhere else that your stuff is published. And I wish you and your husband all the best in 2025.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too, Jerry. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll catch you next time. There she goes, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell with Red State. We'll be back here in just a minute on Politics and the Pulpit with our final segment. All right, we're back here for our final segment here on Politics and the Pulpit on your hometown station, AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita. We just had Jennifer Oliver O'Connell on. Always enjoy having her on. She's a great breath of fresh air and a great advocate for conservatism and also a good Christian. She, of course, is a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, and her husband are serving the Lord there in the state of Alabama. Well, a couple of shameless plugs here before we get into our last little clip that I wanted you to hear, and I'll set that up in just a second. Next week, we have another Jennifer on. Actually, it's Jennifer Horn with AM 870, The Morning Answer. Many of you listen to that from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. And she also is the host of the Inland Empire Answer in the afternoons. And so Jennifer Horn, of course, has been on with us a couple of times. And so looking forward to having her back on next Wednesday. And then, believe it or not, if everything works out, we're going to have another Jennifer on the very next Wednesday, Jennifer Van Laar, the managing editor for RedState's. So we got plenty of Jennifers, including our very own board op here, whose name is Jennifer. So it's amazing. We're surrounded by Jennifers. So yesterday we had the confirmation hearing for Pete Hegseth, and of course Jennifer Oliver O'Connell and I were talking about that, and we both believe, and I think today even more so than a week ago, that Pete Hegseth is indeed going to be confirmed. And I think that'll be a great step forward in the right direction when it comes to our Secretary of Defense, especially with the gentleman that's in there right now, who I think is completely incompetent and not the right choice. I just got a couple weeks ago, we had a gentleman in our church that we were able to send off to the military a couple of years ago, and he came back to visit, and he's stationed in Pensacola, and he told me that ever since November 5th, and then the possibility of a Pete Hegseth coming in, there's just been an enthusiasm, a renewed enthusiasm to serve, and I really think that there's probably going to be more and more people that are going to want to serve in the military as well, and do so with leadership that is competent and is going to be for those men with the boots on the ground. And so Pete Hegseth is a guy that is not just a guy that looks like he's from Central Casting, which of course does help. He's a good-looking guy. He's well put together, but he's a believer. He understands redemption because obviously he has an imperfect life, as all of us do. But one of the things that was brought up yesterday, especially by our Democratic friends on the other side of the aisle, was just all of the pockmarks and the warts that Pete Hegseth has had in his past. And by the way, we all have. I'm a pastor. I'm not perfect. Nobody in my congregation is perfect. The only perfect individual is the Lord Jesus Christ. So the Democrats took full advantage of just, bringing up everything about what Pete has done in his past, some of the divorces, his alcoholism, things of that nature, which I think when it comes to his alcohol abuse, I think he's gotten control of that, and we thank the Lord for that. But Mark Wayne Mullen, a Republican senator, just took an opportunity yesterday, especially in light of what Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia said in his line of questioning, which was completely ridiculous. Mark Wayne Mullen set the record straight by basically pointing out the utter hypocrisy of our friends on the other side of the aisle. And here's what Mark Wayne Mullen said.
The senator from Virginia starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too.
You know, that makes sense. The only mistake that he made in that wonderful soliloquy was saying, give me a joke. I think he meant to say, give me a break. But other than that little verbal faux pas, everything he said was spot on. Because the Democrats are really good at highlighting all the pockmarks of those that are being confirmed on the Republican side. And what's interesting, if the shoe was on the other foot, they would be covering up for their nominees every step of the way. And I think Mark Wayne Mullen is correct. And by the way, nobody's perfect. It's important for us to highlight the fact that we're all sinners, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, for there's none that seeketh after God. So the fact of the matter is, we're all sinners. But Pete Hegseth, especially what he said yesterday in his testimony, was that he found forgiveness at the cross. He says that his life is better because of Jesus and his wife. I think his wife's name is Jenna, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, he understands redemption, and I think that a guy who has had dirt on his boots is going to be a great choice for the Secretary of Defense. Tonight, for those of you that are listening here in the wonderful Santa Clarita Valley, have an opportunity to be a blessing to Dr. Akash Ahuja, who won his Hart School Board seat in November resoundingly. And tonight he is going to be installed. And so he will be taking the oath and being placed on the dais there at the Hart School Board. So that's happening tonight at 7 o'clock, and myself and my wife and some others that have been helpful in Dr. Akash's campaign will be there to watch him be sworn in. So we're excited about that. Just a few days ago, saw our city council member elect Patsy Ayala. She was sworn in here at the city council a few weeks ago and had the pleasure of witnessing that. And also, again, as we close out the show, I'd encourage you to just keep these individuals in prayer that have lost their homes. There are a lot of good organizations out there that have put together some much-needed helps and funds that you can donate to, not only your time, but also donate money and things, stuff, if you will, to these organizations. I think Samaritan's Purse is doing something right now. And so if you feel like you're convicted because there's no fire around us here in Santa Clarita and things are going well, well, then maybe you can donate to Samaritan's Purse or to some of these other organizations that are reputable, that you might be a blessing to these folks who have lost just about everything. In fact, most of them lost everything. I have a friend here in Santa Clarita who just got seated on the College of the Canyon School Board. Her uncle and aunt just lost their home completely in the Palisades. And so there are plenty of us up here that have been affected with friends and family who have lost their homes down there. I just read a story just before I went on air today of a couple in the Palisades who stayed at their home while fire was raging around their hillside home. They're in their 80s, and they fought the fire with water hoses and actually saved their home. It's those kinds of stories right there that kind of lift your heart and give you hope for your fellow man. And so that wonderful couple, thankfully, has their home, but so many have not. And again, we got people out there looting and people out there taking full advantage of all these people. And so shame on them, and we're glad that Nathan Hochman is the DA, and we're hoping that he and Robert Luna, the sheriff, will hold these individuals to full account. Next week, Jennifer Horn with Salem News Network will be joining us on Politics in the Pulpit. We encourage you to listen in to us next week. For the rest of you out there, thank you so much for tuning in to Politics in the Pulpit with your holy host, Pastor Jerry Cook. We'll catch you this time next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care.